Welcome to Lowestoft on the easternmost point of England for the opening rounds of the 2014 Powerboat GP British Championships. In our new 1 hour long shows, we'll be concentrating not just on the headlining Formula 2 catamarans and the frantic GT15 Juniors that so entertained us last year, but also on the two stepping stones that complete the Powerboat GP ladder, the GT30 monohulls and the Formula 4 catamarans. So, to get us in the mood, let's take a look back at some of last year's action.
Oh, and there's contact. And they're off. Oh, and bang. And that's some great GT15 action. Oh, and Jumper's lost it.
The big news in the paddock is that the Formula 2 champion for the last 3 years, Malcolm Goodman, isn't racing this weekend. Some say he's retired, others say he'll be back soon. All we do know is that this weekend there's a new name on his boat, Mark Williams, 2007 and 2010 Formula 4 world champion.
Yeah.
Why have you been waiting so long to get into F2, Mark? Is this a great opportunity for you?
It's a very good opportunity, yeah. And I thought, well, this time I'll grasp it with one hand and take with both hands and take it and have a go.
That's a big step up, isn't it? It's over 200 horsepower from under 100. Have you done a bit of testing with the boat?
I've done one test session and 2 club races to get my licence upgraded to be able to race this weekend. That's just completely, totally different to what I've known before. It's basically the same boat, but the horsepower, the speed, the handling, everything is so different.
And what about this course? Well, we're up, it's a 2-buoy course, as they store it, just up one straight, round a corner and back again. It looks quite simple to the spectator.
No, it's not simple at all. There's wind coming from different directions. I mean, the water churns up in different places. Every lap is completely different, so it's a challenge. There's more room at the top, so you can swing wider if you want to, but down the bottom is very narrow, so you just have to be a bit careful down there. There's not a lot of room if you get 2 or 3 boats next to each other. You're just looking where you go, and you look at the park, it just looks a blur so fast. You know, and plus all the water can get a little bit choppy there as well, so you just have to be a bit careful and just concentrate on what you're doing.
After qualifying, Mark would end up 5th fastest, less than a second shy of poleman Colin Jelf. Paul Balfour would line up 2nd in his old-fashioned wooden hull, while Alan Marshall, back on form, would complete the top 3. Alan has life in the old dog yet, 3rd fastest in qualifying. The boat's going well.
Well, I'm surprised that it did, because I had a couple of hairy moments out there.
We saw, yeah, hooking down. Is that a gust catching you out, or the way you got the boat set?
Just trying too hard, I think.
It's windy and choppy. It's going to be very rough in the race, very challenging. Hopefully the wind's going to keep down enough so we can get the races in. And yeah, I mean, we're feeling good, so hopefully we'll get a good start and that'll be a good race.
All 4 classes have 3 heats over the course of the weekend, with points allocated for each race and the totals deciding the final results. For all the best action from the first 2 Formula 2 heats, we now join our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
Round 1 of the RYA Powerboat GP National Series starts here at Oulton Broad with Colin Jelf, who set the pole position as we start the race, the 15-lap race, as they go up towards turn 1 then. And it's 7 Optimaxes and 3 SST 120s who are incidentally on a 5-second delay, and they will start in a moment. But round turn 1 and already down to turn 2 with Colin Jelf, the pole sitter, in the lead at the moment. A clear lead for Colin Jelf. He's got Paul Balfour in 2nd position, and this is composite boat with Colin Jelf and a wooden boat with Paul Balfour. So wood v plastic effectively, but Paul Balfour's boat doing very well up there in 2nd position. And Steve Holt with a massive problem. Well, he had a bit of a scruffy qualifying session, and it's carried through into heat number 1 because he spun out at the Wherry turn. Always a bit rough, and that's Matt Palfreyman with a problem. And he too has some kind of steering issue there. at the top turn. So 2 drivers then. Steve Holt, I think, has recovered from that, but Matt Palfreyman looks like he's definitely out of the race. So Alan Marshall then in 3rd position in boat number 34. A good qualifying session for him then. But Colin Jelf at the moment seeming to be the man to beat. Last year in 2013 he was a little bit off form really, the 3 times world champion. He was getting to grips with the Optimax engine, but 2014 it's looking pretty good as he wins Heat 1. So on to Heat 2 then, and Colin Jelf will start of course in that pole position. Let's see how rookie driver Mark Williams will get on in this race. He started 4th on the grid and now he is in the middle of the picture there in boat number 49. He's trying to catch up with the front 3 runners, but almost a coming together between him and Alan Marshall there. But the front 2 are streaming off into the distance, and this is Colin Jelf in number 4 v Paul Balfour in number 29, and round the wherry turn, and Balfour forced on the outside. He can't cut through because it will just unstable the boat, it will all unsettle and he'll lose time, but at the moment he's charging and pressurising Colin Jelf up towards the top turn then. Round the turn, and Colin Jelf backs off slightly and forces Balfour wide, but now they run down the course, down to the narrow hairpin turn at the wherry, 800 metre straights along this very tight racecourse here at Oulton Broad, and Colin Jelf showing that he is the master and showing Paul Balfour the way around in heat number 2. In the meantime, well, we look back then from Matt Palfreyman, who had steering issues in heat number 1, but they're all been resolved. It was a snapped steering cable, so I understand. But he did make it out for heat number 2. So Colin Jelf then already lapping some of the back markers, some of the SST 120 drivers in this race. So Owen Jelf then in boat number 3. He too had issues yesterday, in fact didn't even make it out for heat number 1. He had a problem with a sticky foot throttle, but that also has now been resolved. So Colin Jelf then out in front, as once again lapping another back marker, Ray Burney this time as we go up towards the top turn. But Colin Jelf is very much in control of round 1 and is looking set for another victory in heat number 2. And in fact there's the checkered flag, and Colin Jelf does take the win. So a maximum of 800 points for 2 wins for Colin Jelf at the moment then, with Paul Balfour 720 points after 2 heats, and Alan Marshall third with 648 points.
I was on him for about 4 or 5 laps, but the out trims failed. I had no out trim, so I couldn't trim in for the corners. Lost a lot of time on the corners.
For the past 4 years, the junior GT15 category has been dominated by one boy, Ben Jelf. For 3 years on the trot, he won both the British Championship and the Sprint Championship. But last year, he didn't get the Sprint one because Thomas Mantrip did. Thomas, that was a great result last year. You must be very pleased with that weekend.
Yeah.
But now, you want that British Championship as well, don't you?
Yeah, that would be nice. So just looking forward to the heats and the qualifying sessions. Hopefully get a good place on the grid, get pole position.
And disappear.
Well, we've been doing a lot of testing. Obviously, we had last year, we've been doing a lot of testing. Obviously, towards the end of the year, we were starting to catch him, getting better, getting quicker. And hopefully this year we can just get that edge on him.
Things didn't get off to the best of starts for Thomas, who would only line up 4th after qualifying, with 12-year-old Jonathan Brewer setting a stunning pace, 0.8 of a second faster than champion Jelf. In 3rd, with his best ever qualifying result, was Elliot Fleet. Elliot, 3rd place on the grid.
I know, it's mate. I didn't think I'd get that well.
Jonathan, first race of the year, and you've beaten the great Jelf by 0.8 of a second to pole position. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels great. It's the first race of the season, so hopefully we can keep it going at this level.
Of course, we're still checking, always post-qualifying, they're going to check the weight of your boat, because this weight is very critical in these boats, isn't it?
Yeah, because it has to be a certain weight limit, and if you're under the weight limit, then you can easily get disqualified, which happened last year.
11 GT15 drivers were due to line up, but we are missing just one of them with mechanical problems. However, the story here is Jonathan Brewer in pole position does not make it up towards the first turn straight away because everybody else is getting there before him in boat number 7. Brewer was the pole position lad, but at the moment it's like a leave-off really from last year because Ben Jelf already out in front with Thomas Mantrip pressurising in second position, and Jelf has wiped out the turn boy. My goodness, a mistake on the second turn of the race. And let's see if what happens here now. Will the race be stopped? And yes, the red flag is out. So a restart then, because Ben Jelf did wipe out the turn boy and effectively is a non-entrant in heat number 1 because of the disqualification for the dislodgement of that turn buoy. So it's down to everybody else, and this does give Jonathan Brewer a second chance at the apple, really, because Brewer had the bad start in the original start. Well, let's see how he's getting on at the moment, and he's just battling there in number 7 against Tegan Goodfellow in boat number 8. But here is the leader, Thomas Mantrip, out in front and wrestling with that steering wheel at the wary turn. Now this is an interesting shot then, because Jonathan Brewer just ahead of Tegan Goodfellow, and he's making it very, very difficult for the young ladies just behind him. So we now look then at the rest of the field, and they're having a good scrap then, and that's Jess Beaumont then, who's about to fall victim from Jonathan Brewer as they turn at the top turn, and Jess Beaumont keeps it very tight round the top as they battle down the straights. Jess Beaumont in number 22, defending her position, but Jonathan Brewer looking very, very quick and just proving that that pace from qualifying was no fluke. But Thomas Mantrip then has had a fairly easy, comfortable ride. There was no Ben Jelf to pressurise him in this Heat 1, and Thomas Mantrip then looks set to complete a victory for Heat number 1. So we move on to Heat 2 then, with lining up on the grid with Thomas Mantrip in pole, Jonathan Brewer in second, and Elliot Fleet third on the grid after finishing third in that first race. So a good start then from Mantrip, but Ben Jelf, remember, disqualified from Heat 1, has to start on the end of the grid. Now it's a big battle really if he wants to make anything of this weekend. He's got to really go from last and work his way through the field, which is what he's doing at the moment. So we're looking at number 4, and would you believe it, already up into second position. So Thomas Mantrip in boat number 12 is leading the race, but Ben Jelf really hungry, I think, for a win in heat number 2 after a dreadful mistake in that first race. So these small GT15 engines, they're 4-stroke, but they still do a speed of 40 miles an hour for these youngsters, and you can start racing from the age of 9. But look at this battle between two very experienced GT15 drivers. Ben Jelf on the inside, 12. Thomas Mantrip on the outside, but Ben Jelf looks like he's bullied his way through. As we now look at Jonathan Brewer in boat number 7, a little bit further down the pack, and this time battling it out with somebody else there, as Ben Jelf looks like he's almost got through then into the lead, and in fact he has now made it through and passes Thomas Mantrip in boat number 12, and Mantrip then relegated to second position. So Ben Jelf then coming down the straights, he can see the checkered flag in sight, and that's much better from Ben Jelf, wins heat number 2. So Thomas Mantrip is the head of the leaderboard at the moment after 2 heats, 760 points for him. A tie for second position between Elliot Fleet and Jess Beaumont, both on 616 points.
Ben, after a disaster in the first heat, a very good win from the back of the grid in that second heat. It's sort of made up for what happened in the first time.
Yeah, first time was just a mistake, and this time he just came out and came back better.
I mean, when you just look at it, it looks like you just drive into the buoy. What actually happens when you're driving? Is it the way the water catches the boat?
A lot of the time the water does just catch the boat. I mean, my sort of design was designed to go like over wave, so if it gets like a wave under it, it will just ping out.
So, while Thomas Mantrip looks favourite to win the GT15s, he still has to finish that final heat to claim the points at the end of the day. Make sure you join us after the break when it's time for the GT30 and Formula 4 heats. Welcome back to Powerboat GP, where 4 times British Junior Champion Ben Jelf is about to have his first ever GT30 race. Ben, double the power. How much testing have you done so far?
I've done a few weekends of testing. It seems to be going pretty well.
And is it a much more lively boat, a big driving change?
It's a bit of a speed difference, but it's good.
So you're hoping to be right at the front, or do you think it'll take you a few races to get into the extra speed?
I hope to get into the front, but it's my first race. I'm not expecting too much of the boat, and to see how it goes.
Ben shouldn't have worried too much about his pace, as qualifying saw him third fastest, just under half a second off pole. Although perhaps he should have been worried that second fastest and just 800ths off pole was fellow GT30 debutante Charlotte Newman. And to complete the girl power grid, quickest of all was Jess Stoneman. Jess, pole position, first race of the year, you must be delighted.
Oh, I can't wait to go back there and race it. I'm so excited.
But Charlotte, a tenth behind you.
Well, she'll have to find it out in racing, won't she?
Good luck.
Two young ladies make it first and second on the grid, with Ben Jelf being the first of the males, third on the grid. But it's Charlotte Newton who pulls away. Now, she really was trying hard in the qualifying session and overcooked it on a couple of occasions. But in the race itself, well, look at this, first up to the turn, and that's almost job done for her, pretty sure of that, because a pretty good turn from number 27, Charlotte Newton, an ex-junior driver from last year. But as we look down the field, a good scrap for second and third position. Now, this is Jess Stoneman, and Jess, more of an experienced GT30 driver these days, and she's having a good battle there, a slight adjustment of the visor incidentally, but she's having a good scrap with Ben Jelf. Now, Ben, of course, is still in GT15 racing, but this weekend makes his debut in the GT30 class, and he's already made one mistake in the GT15 class. He won't want to do that in this GT30 race. So a good strong challenge then from Ben Jelf in number 4 on his cousin Jess Stoneman. Now she takes it very, very, very tight then to the wherry turn, and forcing Ben Jelf into an even much tighter turn there as they go back up the course. Ben Jelf having the advantage now of being on the inside of Jess Stoneman as they arrive now at the top turn, and Stoneman knows that Jelf is on a bit of a mission, and round, and he's done it again, would you believe that? Ben Jelf, just as he did in juniors, well, he didn't quite wipe out the turns, but nevertheless, he almost got entangled with those turn boys. But in the meantime, Charlotte Newton is about to take her first GT30 race win. In Heat 2, Charlotte Newton starts from pole position, and Ben Jelf just on the right-hand side of her, because Jess Stoneman had a bit of an incident in heat number 1. So, Ben Jelf's second on the grid. What can he do from here? Well, he's having a good go at chasing Charlotte Newton up to the top turn, and Charlotte runs wide. And almost an entanglement there. And that's Jess Stoneman and Ben Jelf getting very close together, if not touching. But it does mean now that Jess Stoneman bullies her way through and regains second position. So, the race leader, Charlotte Newton, out in front in 27, Jess Stoneman in second position now, and Ben Jelf, who in practice session really was leaning forward in the boat to try and keep it on the water. But really, a sensational drive from boat number 27 as we look at the back of the grid here, as that's Graham Palfreyman in actual fact in boat number 88. Making it from F2 last year into GT30, and he almost loses it, just as he did in the mono a few years ago at Oulton Broad, and bang on the steering wheel. He's not happy, but this young lady is. Charlotte Newton wins 2 out of 2. So Charlotte leads the leaderboard then with a maximum of 800 points, with Ben Jelf in second with 684 and Jess Stoneman third, 652 points.
Once you've turned 15, you can move up to catamarans with this 60 horsepower Formula 4 boat. And that's something which 2011 GT30 champion Natalie Craddock has decided to do. Natalie, a big step up or what?
Yeah, well, I've been wanting to do F4 for quite a few years now, but did the step into GT30 first, and I found that it's really helped with the driving skill, even though it's totally different with the trim and stuff. But
so how much time have you had on the water before you come to this first race?
I've just managed to get all my signatures, so I did 3 club races and 2 tests.
Natalie would lined up a tentative 6th after qualifying, with Mike Pillow grabbing pole by nearly half a second. Reigning champion Ben Morse had to settle for second best, and Sam Whittle rounded out the top 3.
1 point towards the championship already, that's excellent. Good start, very pleased, because I've changed nothing since last year, other than lost about a stone of weight.
10 laps lay ahead of these F4S Formula 4 boats as they go up towards the top there. A relatively new class in the UK, and it was Mike Pillow who set the pole position here for heat number 1. And look how close they all are as they charge up towards the first turn. 10 laps ahead of them then. And and it's an incident straight away, and that's Mike Pillow into the turn, boys. Now I think they become dislodged there. So Mike Pillow looks like he's caused a race stoppage. Let's have a look at this, because into the turn, chasing Ben Morse, and bang! And that's the turn, boys, and that's the end of Mike Pillow's race for Heat 1, as the rest of the boats then return back to the start grid to restart, minus Mike Pillow. So the turn buoy then being replaced, and we get ready for the restart of heat number 1. And it's Ben Morse then who starts in pole position after Mike Pillow being disqualified from this race after colliding with that turn buoy. So on board then with Ben Morse as we charge up there. Now remember, from the original start, everyone was bunched very, very close together. Heading off towards turn 1, Rob Veers in boat number 18, the all-white boat of Veers, trying to hold off newcomer Natalie Craddock, who's moved up from the GT30 class into F4S this year as Mike Pillow does the walk of shame. He's out of it, and he's already blown this heat as far as he's concerned. But back to the race, and Ben Morse in 97, proving that he's very much on song and on top form, as Sam Whittle on the left of the picture and Natalie Craddock on the right-hand side. But here's your second position boat, number 18, Rob Veers, chasing this man, Ben Morse, the unstoppable Ben Morse, who started his racing career back in the GT15 and J250 junior days, but now very much in control of things behind the wheel of the F4S. A very successful win then. Heat number 1 goes to Ben Morse. So heat number 2 then, and remember, Mike Pillow is allowed to restart. He's on the very end of the grid, just out of shot there, but a good start from Sam Whittle in boat number 30. But look at Ben Morse, he's hooked up a brilliant start as they go away from the start grid. 10 laps of action from the F4S's up towards turn 1. A long drag, 800 metres up towards that first turn, and Rob Veers, who finished second in heat 1, just on the inside of Natalie Craddock in boat number 88 as we ride on board. And look at that, that's a brilliant view of the race leader coming down the racecourse out in front. He's got all the clear water. In the meantime, behind him is a bit of a traffic jam. But Mike Pillow trying to get through at the moment. He's doing well. I think he's just up into second position there. No, he didn't quite get there because he's chasing this man still, number 18, Rob Veers. So the race leader out in front, and you can see the gap, and that's the advantage of having all the clear water in front of you. And Ben Morse in number 97 doing very well here at what is renowned to be a very, very tricky race circuit. And this is Matt Palfreyman in the pink boat. He's multitasking this weekend. We see him earlier in the F2, and now he's in the F4S, trying to hold off Natalie Craddock in her debut year in the F4S class. And now she's she was quite a foisty driver in the GT30 class from which she moved up from, and now she's proving to be just as competitive in the F4S class. So Ben Morsen coming up to take the checkered flag and wins heat number 2. Makes him top of the leaderboard with 800 points, with second with 684 points Robert Veers, Natalie Craddock making it third.
Ben, 2 wins out of 2, but it was a little red boat in your mirrors in that race.
Yeah, he was right over the back of me all the way through, wasn't he? Coming from last on the grid. So obviously I have to watch him in the next one, starting next to me now.
Mike, you're a fairly experienced racer, so why did you drive into a buoy yesterday?
I got caught on Ben's wash, I'm afraid. The nose went in, the back end came out, and that was it. I'd got no steering. First time I've ever done it in 18 seasons of racing.
No.
First time ever. I couldn't believe it, but never mind.
So the first 2 heats have been run. Make sure you join us after the break when the finals begin. Welcome back to Lowestoft for the first of our Powerboat GP finals. The GT30s are lined up for the start. It's time for us to join our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
Heat 3 of the weekend for the GT30 class, and Charlotte Newton has drove excellently all weekend. And she looks across the shoulder just to see the opposition, and Jess Stoneman, who's been right there, and in fact she's even more there now because she's charging away from the grid, right side by side with Charlotte Newton. As we look back at the others, and Abby Brewer there just out of the picture in boat number 8. She's the boat on the left-hand side of the screen as they go into the first turn, but it's between the first 2 really, as Ben Jelf fancies a bit of the front action there and tries to make a do-or-die attempt to get through into the lead. But look at these 2 young lady drivers out in front at the moment. Charlotte Newton really on the outside, and that's not going to help her. as Jess Stoneman tries to bully her way through. And they're still at it at the moment, but it looks like Stoneman's just got the advantage now. As Charlotte Newton on the inside, it's a good position to be, but will Jess Stoneman shut the door by the time they get up to the top turn? And it's very tight round there, in contact. And, well, that's a bit of deck riding, I think, going on there between the two ladies. As Ben Jove keeps himself out of trouble this time and watches it all happen just in front. As, well, let's just have a look at the replay now. Charlotte Newton on the inside, drifts out and bang into the engine. And, well, we're lucky that those two boats are still in the race at the moment. So, Jess Stoneman then going down, but she did force her way through into the lead, and good driving from these two. Very competitive stuff out there in front. So, 27 then. She's had 2 wins. The second is not disastrous for her as long as she keeps motoring. But Jess Stoneman, oh no, she does not keep motoring. And that boat has come to a stop. And, well, that's her race over with, I'm pretty sure, unless she can get it restarted, but I don't think it's going to happen. And Charlotte Newton goes through into the lead. So 27 back on form, back out in front there. And Ben Jove then automatically moves up into second, and Abby Brewer will move up into third position. And Jess Stoneman has got the paddle out now. They have to carry these. Part of scrutineering is to have a paddle in your boat. And what's that? That's something flapping on the underside. And some damage then has been taken on board from Charlotte Newton as she goes round the top turn. It doesn't really appear to affect the handling of the boat though, but there's definitely something flapping there. But Charlotte Newton continues to lead. As, well, really, Jess Stoneman looks on at the leader, and that's where she was in the earlier part of the race. Oh, look at that, she can't even look anymore. As 27 round the top turn, and she knows that this is going to be 3 out of 3 if it keeps motoring to the finish line, which it looks like it's going to do, and Charlotte Newton does make it 3 out of 3, and she's got to be happy with that. So a maximum of 1,200 points goes to Charlotte Newton, with Ben Jove making it second position with 1,044 points, and third position overall, Abby Brewer with 940 points.
Charlotte, your first ever national win. How good does that feel?
It feels great. I didn't expect it when I was coming.
And on that final, you could have just cruised around and finished second and still won the weekend, and yet you got embroiled in a great battle with Jess.
Yeah, it was quite tough, but I hit her and I didn't mean to, and I'm deeply sorry to Jess.
Jess, not quite the weekend you'd hoped for. 2 tough heats and then a bit of a clash in that final.
Yeah, I can't believe I was first, and then there was a little bit of an incident, and then my fuel line got knocked, so whenever I revved it, it never went off, so I had to stop.
On then to the Formula 4 final, where the big question is, can Mike Pillow, the fastest man in qualifying, get a consolation win? Having disqualified for being a turn boy in the first heat, and then fighting back to second place in the second.
So we move into the third and final heat for the F4S's, and a brilliant start then. From second on the grid, Mike Pillow in number 42, as the rest of the pack then start, but what a start from this man. Wipes out the turn boy in heat 1, salvaged something pretty good with a second position in heat 2, and now charging up there in the lead of the rest of the pack in at the start of heat 3. But look how close they are once again all together, and Shulver with a good start this time in 37. So watch the first turn, and that's Matt Palfreyman getting very, very close to the turn boy. So they all make it safely round, however. But we are on board now with the race leader, and look at this, just sneaking up through on the inside is Ben Morse, 97. And into the wherry turn, and that's a textbook manoeuvre, really, from Mike Pillow out wide and then hook it in tight, and then you get a good exit on the corner, and that is exactly what Mike Pillow done there. So up towards the top turn, Ben Morse is not having any of it though, because he's still charging as they go round the top turn, and Morse very much on form this weekend. He's got 2 wins, but he'd really like to make it 3 out of 3 if he can, and he will not be happy to see the red boat in front of him. The red mist is not a red mist in this case, it is a red boat, and that boat is Mike Pillow. As Ben Morse tries the textbook manoeuvre on Pillow, but it didn't quite stick that time. So, once again, just as Ben Morse has previously had in the last 2 heats of the clear water advantage, Mike Pillow has that this time around, and you can see up towards the top turn there's loads of room up there. It's not quite as narrow as it is at the bottom turn of this race course, where it funnels down and the water chops up a bit more at this particular turn here where we are now. So Ben Morse still charging. The 60 horsepower 4-stroke engines doing speeds of around about 70 miles an hour as Mike Pillow will be checking in his mirrors. He'll be looking for that distinctive blue and yellow boat of Morse. But at the moment, Morse is a little bit of a distant memory as Mike Pillow enjoying the pace that he had in qualifying, and it's proving him well out there in front in the lead at the moment. But Ben Morse, his race is not over yet, and don't write him off because he's still charging. And down the course, once they get down to the Wherry turn, I think there could be another possible chance for Ben Morse to overtake. And does he? Oh, he makes it stick. You've got to be careful there that you don't trip over each other's prop wash. It leaves a little bit of dirty water, what we call dirty water, holes in the water. Boats can easily roll over. An interesting battle here between Matt Palfreyman in boat number 15 and Brian Shulver in 37, taking place a bit further down the pack for third and fourth positions. But have a look at this, and there's a stranded boat, and that to me looks like that's Rob Veersel, and that was lucky that Ben Morse didn't collect him. And Rob Veersel in boat 18 finished second in heat number 1, is out of the race, and there he is. That engine's not firing up this time around for him. So a good spectator point of view, but one which he will not be happy in being in. So Ben Morse then still charging, number 97, ex-junior driver, GT30 ranks, and now F4S to add to his credit. Chasing this man of many, many years of experience. Started racing in monoholes, did Mike Pillow. But look at these two, still neck and neck. The pink boat of Matt Palfreyman and Brian Shulver, the most experienced driver on the racecourse. Brian Shulver, who started racing back in, 1978. In fact, in his first ever national in an F4S class. And there he is. Oh, and look at this. These two scrapping. This is veteran v youth as Matt Palfreyman just makes it stick. But one man who's made it stick for all of the laps so far in this heat is number 42, Mike Pillow. Round the top turn. Back down again as we head towards the Wherry turn. The infamous Wherry turn, one of the most trickiest turns in powerboat racing in the UK circuits. As we look at Ben Morse, it's getting towards the later stages now of the race. Really, one more lap of charging for Ben Morse to try and salvage a victory from this. Second is not bad news for him, but I think Morse is up for the hat-trick. Let's see what he can do round the turn, and Mike Pillow runs wide, and Morse gets a good exit then on the turn. Has he got enough grunt in that 60 horsepower engine to get him alongside Mike Pillow on the charge? This is one of the closest finishes we've seen in a long time in F4S, but Mike Pillow just gets to the line before Morse. So Ben Morse wins the day then. Sam Whittle is second with 799 points, and Natalie Craddock and Shulver tie, although Craddock wins over heat times.
Ben, the perfect start to a new season, but a fantastic race in that final.
Yeah, it was a good race, but I think it proved that we've got some work to do. He's obviously got a bit more speed than us, so we'll have to go testing next weekend and have a big push before the next national.
So after a perfect start to Ben Morse's defence of his Formula 4 crown, it's time for us to take a break. Make sure you join us for the last two finals for the juniors and the F2 Cats. Welcome back to Lowestoft for the last two Powerboat GP finals, where Thomas Mantrip just has to finish in the top 5 to win the day. But I've no doubt first thing on his mind is to beat Ben Jelf.
So Ben Jelf starts in that pole position for the 6 lap final as they go up towards the top turn, and they're all away, all 10 boats then. All the GT15s are away from the start grid as they go up towards the first turn. They of course run over a little bit of a shorter course, as you would have seen, than the bigger classes. But what a sight they make as they come up towards the first turn, and Harvey Smith right in the middle of the action in boat number 9. Lucy Brewer and Tegan Goodfellow a battle for the young ladies there, and a nice tight turn in fact from young Tegan as George Elmore, he's now finishing up the field there, but we come down with the leaders, and Thomas Mantrip in second position in number 12, just ahead of number 22, Jess Beaumont, as they come in towards the Wherry turn, with the race leader already pulling out a little bit of a significant gap then So that gap there between first and second, but here comes everybody else, including Jack Pickles and Elliot Fleet. So Thomas Mantrip second with Jess Beaumont. Now she's charging at the moment. She wants to, she feels that she can get into second position and upset Mantrip's day. I don't think it will upset him too much because he's on the route home for a national round win. As long as he keeps it upright, and as Tiff said, he needs to just finish in the top 5. So let's just see as we go down with the race leader, Ben Jelf, towards the Wherry turn, but he makes it look so easy. It's quite difficult multitasking. He's been driving GT30 all day, and to hop back into something a little bit slower, the GT15 class, but he's got a point to prove still, I think, within this class which he has dominated. Elliot Fleet having a good weekend, isn't he, in boat number 11, as Jess Beaumont having a quick glance over the shoulder just to see where the opposition and where the threat is going to come from. She was so busy, in fact, concentrating on Thomas Mantrip in that second position spot. Her third position is very much under threat there. I think that's Elliot Fleet trying to make his way through, but Harvey Smith is also there on the charge as we go down the course once again with the leader, Ben Jelf, in boat number 4. A little bit of a wide exit. He won't be wanting to connect with any of those turn boys as he did in heat number 1, but I think he's pretty safe in heat number 3. And this looks like Elliot Fleet's attack then on Jess Beaumont, but at the moment it's not happening. Lucy Brewer having a very rough race there in mid-pack, and that's where all the rough water gets, especially down there at that bottom turn. So the battle then very much on for this third position between Beaumont and Elliot Fleet as the race leader. Well, it's a nice comfortable ride out there for him with all the clear water, although it is getting a little bit windy and bumpy, and he almost took off there on the approach towards that bottom turn, but he keeps it under control. And Ben Jelf, as always, showing that he is the maestro when it comes to GT15 racing. So Jess Beaumont still being threatened by this man, Elliot Fleet, just behind, and Jonathan Brewer, the initial pole setter, really struggling now throughout the rest of the weekend, and is mid-pack charging with Harvey Smith. So there is second position, Thomas Mantrip. He knows he's probably done enough as long as he keeps motoring. And here's newcomer George Elmore. Oh, and that's his first moment, isn't it? Number 5 has a little bit of a spin down at the bottom turn, but it's nothing that's going to affect him too much, and he recovers well. But Ben Jelf does win heat number 3. But it's Thomas Mantrip then who wins round 1 with 1,120 points. Jess Beaumont is second with 940 points, and third is Elliot Fleet with 908 points.
Thomas, a slow start to the weekend, but a perfect finish.
Yeah, well, I was quite pleased with my boat's performance this weekend. Won the first heat, won the first national, so it's a good start to the season. Hopefully I can keep it up for Carmel next round.
Time then for our grand finale. 15 laps for our 200 horsepower, 120 mile an hour Formula 2 catamarans. Time for us to rejoin our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
Thanks, Tiff, as we now look at 10 Formula 2 boats lining up on the start grid for the final race of the Round 1 Powerboat GP National Championships here at Oulton Broad, and they all get away from the start grid. And Colin Jelf once again starting in that pole position. It's the shortest way and the tightest way up to the first turn. And Paul Balfour with a good start, but Mark Williams from 4th on the grid. He's right up there along with Owen Jelf. He too has stormed through from the middle pack of the grid then as they go around turn 1, and it's getting congested up there as Steve Holt is now beginning to find out. He's had a bit of a rough weekend really, but he's been in the mix of things in the middle of the pack all weekend as we ride down the course then with Matt Palfreyman. But there is the leader. He's got a new challenge just behind him in the form of Mark Williams, and look at that. That's busy, isn't it? But they all managed to avoid each other as they go back up the course. And Steve Holt then, he's got Matt Palfreyman just on the right, but look at the new challenge from Mark Williams in the second position. He took the first 2 heats pretty easy, but this third heat then, he's making it all his own. But look at this scrap. Paul Balfour then right off the pace in heat number 3, and he too has got a challenge behind in the form of Steve Holt, who's just to the right of him, and also Matt Palfreyman. So down the course, and Palfreyman, remember, he's in a new boat for this season, so not a lot of time in that boat for him then. In fact, this is his first national race in that hull, so it's all new territory for young Matt Palfreyman. So back up the racecourse again. Steve Holt, of course, is in a more familiar boat. He raced that boat last year. And a very tight turn from Alan Marshall. He's in the scrap. This is 4th, 5th and 6th positions. And Alan Marshall in 34 coming down the course. But I think really they're all struggling behind Williams and Owen Jelf, who's also found some pace and is currently laying in 3rd position. So Paul Balfour in one of very few wooden boats left in the Formula 2 class these days. The rest of them now being made of composite materials, including the race leaders, Colin Jelf, and he's out there in front. But back to this scrap again, and Alan Marshall really fancies his chances of trying to get ahead of Steve Holt and trying to also get ahead then really of Paul Balfour. In the meantime, well, you just briefly see Owen Jelf there enjoying that 3rd position. He had a couple of laps practice earlier on and was looking pretty fast and hot just before the Heat 2. But this is Heat 3, and that practice earlier on in the afternoon really paid dividends, I think, for Owen Jelf, and he's finally found some form. So back to the screen and back to Alan Marshall. He's known as Uncle Al on the race scene, and number 34, Alan Marshall, has been racing in Formula 2 now. So let's see, that's back from 1994 when he purchased an American design boat. He's always fancied the composite boats, but we ride on board now with Matt Palfreyman. You can just see there in the visor Matt Palfreyman's eyes, and he's looking exactly where the rooster tail is finishing on Steve Holt, because he wants to be in front of that rooster tail and gaining a position. But Palfreyman choosing to go around the outside of everyone. He doesn't really want to trip over in anyone else's wash at the moment. He doesn't fancy going upside down just yet in that new outfit of his. So Steve Holt having a bit of a race then as he goes down the course, but this man, Colin Jelf, really setting the pace here for 2014 in the opening round of the series. And Colin really is the man to beat, not only this weekend, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be one to watch throughout the rest of this season. So Alan Marshall, 34, let's see how he is doing at the moment. Nice tight turns from Alan Marshall. He's not giving up that inside line as we watch the rest of the pack now. You can see Paul Balfour then just in front, as Paul Balfour now lapping one of the back markers. So Marshall did get the job done on Steve Holt, and now he's chasing hard with Paul Balfour, and that's Ray Burney just in the shot there in the grey boat. He races with one of the old school SST 120 engines. There's only 3 of them left now on the national scene, and in fact you can see the speed difference now as Steve Holt now laps Ray Burney on the course. Back with Matt Palfreyman now as they arrive at the top turn, and once again Matt Palfreyman trying to get past the back marker as Colin Jelf also entangled with some back markers, and this time it's John Masters, but that's no problem really then for Colin Jelf as he rounds the top turn. So the race beginning to settle down a little bit, but Colin Jelf still looking in his mirrors just to make sure that that second position boat of Mark Williams is not going to make any sudden surprises for him. So Jelf in the lead, Mark Williams in 49 is in second, and third place is Owen Jelf, but it's so close. One mistake from any of these drivers and another driver can move up a position very, very easily. So Paul Balfour round at the Wherry turn then, exits the corner, and you can see then Steve Holt wrestling with the boat. In fact, that race still isn't over just yet, is it? Between Marshall, Balfour and Steve Holt, they're just behind at the moment. But no one has an answer for this man, Colin Jelf, who's made it 2 out of 2, and look how close he runs to the turn boys, but he's not collecting them this time around. In fact, he almost rolled over here this time last year when we had to abandon the final race because of the wind. It's not like that here this weekend. Perfect conditions for Colin Jelf as he rounds the top turn. He'll be thinking now that this race is almost done and dusted, as Alan Marshall, one final attempt really to try and attack on Paul Balfour, but it didn't work. So Colin Jelf has done his late father proud here this weekend and wins 3 out of 3. So the overall results look like this. Colin Jelf a maximum of 1,200 points, with Paul Balfour finishing in second with 1,012 points, and Mark Williams an excellent debut start, 944 points.
Colin, the perfect end to a perfect day.
Yes, every heat was fantastic. I mean, thanks to Peters and May, they forwarded the new props to us through customs, and they've worked perfectly. And everything's gone really well. I mean, basically, we just really want to dedicate this win in the memory of my father.
from Lowestoft. Make sure you join us when Powerboat GP returns for the Lancashire Grand Prix.